Well, welcome everybody. It is a Wild Wednesday. Come on now, Wild Wednesday. Woo-hoo! There we go. It's wild up in here.
Melinda's our $20 an hour sound effects.
Yes.
No, we don't pay her that much.
That's right.
She's like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Our check is not
That would be
reflecting
great.
those wages.
And Melinda, don't tell them minimum wage went up either.
No, I won't tell them.
Just joking. Just joking.
Melinda, you're going to want to pay a lot of attention to our next guest, I think. You can renegotiate this contract, I think.
Get a real job.
All right. I'm all ears.
Some clouds today, maybe some showers. Highs today around 82.
And it is a Wild Wednesday. That means we're taking your song requests all day long. If you have a song request you'd like to hear, you definitely want to get it in pretty quick because that list is pretty long right now already.
Oh, man. Yeah, this is going to take us almost to 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
So hurry if you want to get in before 9. Otherwise, you have to wait till after 9:30.
Yep, after the prayer closet. 419-240-1937. Call or text, email or text, studio@yeshome.com. Let us know what you want to hear. We'll do our best to get it on the air for you. And coming up this hour, in just a few moments, we're going to talk to Ken Rush. He's the author of the book Blue Collar Cash.
And in the studio, not often we get a book author in the studio.
Local author.
That's
so
awesome.
This is nice. Yes, we always like getting our local authors on. And also, we've got some stories, some exercise, sports, weight loss, kind of all general fitness kind of stories related that we're going to share with you a little later on.
Yeah, it is. Since maybe you haven't been able to do much physical activity, well, at least we'll do it with theater of the mind and share you some stories.
There's good news, bad news, and alarming news. So we'll share that with you.
And some goofy news.
Yes. Well, it's all goofy. But so all that's coming up this hour. And we'll get a round of You Sunk My Pool Float in somewhere.
Absolutely.
We'll get that in. But right now, we have joining us in studio local author from Toledo, local businessman from Toledo, Ken Rusk, here to talk about his book, Blue Collar Cash. Love your work, secure your future, and find happiness for life. Ken, welcome to the Wake Up Call Morning Show.
Well, good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you on with us.
Give us a little bit of your background. Are you from the area originally, and how'd you come to write a book?
Well, yeah, I feel like I've lived here more than half my life. I moved here in 1986 from the Cleveland area.
So you step up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to start our company again back when we just had 6 employees, and it's been a great time to live and work in Toledo, Ohio. So,
Sorry to our Cleveland listeners, that was a joke. A little in-state rivalry.
And, I was looking at this book and I was thinking about this because I have a friend who has, he's got like a master's degree in microbiology or something like that. But he's in the agricultural field. And he owned his own landscaping company. So one day he's out there at this lady's house and he's out digging a big hole for her tree or something that he's planting in the front of the yard. And the lady looks at him and goes, "Don't you wish you had gone to school so you could get a real job, not have to dig holes for a living?" And he just laughed because he's sitting there with a master's degree in like molecular biology, but he was doing what he loved, right? And I think there's a real undervaluing of the trades, of skilled labor, that we just, the mantra is everybody needs to go to college, and that's just not the case.
well, it actually has never been the case. It's really not possible for everybody to go to college, or who would do some of the great things that we need done, like build houses. You mentioned landscaping, building roads and bridges, even creating such amazing small businesses like bakeries and hair salons and skin esthetician places, stuff like that. So I think one of the issues that we had was a long time ago when they decided to get rid of shop class in high school. And they replaced all those rooms with computers. And we all need to learn computers, obviously, that's fine. But I don't think it was really a binary choice, one or the other. And when they did that, they kind of eliminated millions of kids from discovering carpentry and plumbing and welding and those kinds of things. So,
yeah, we've got a Stotzenberger College right down here. I think this section they teach kind of like more of the HVAC type trades, I think. So, but yeah.
So, what inspired you to write the book Blue Collar Cash? You've been in kind of the construction business your whole life. That's your kind of your where your area is. But what
Right.
inspired you to write this book? And who was your audience? Who did you have in mind?
That's a great question. I think what happened was, we hire a lot of people. I mean, we have almost 200 employees now, and whenever you're hiring a lot of people, you get to see a lot of different types of individuals coming through the door, and we really started noticing that they were maybe a little less and less prepared for their life. So we started thinking about perhaps writing a book that could teach people, instead of just when they come out of high school, we hand them an axe and say, there's the forest, start chopping. We wanted to start teaching people how to think for themselves, how to think long term, how to maybe begin with their best life with the end in mind and work backwards toward today. So when you ask, who might be the best purchaser of this book, it's really kind of simple. If you are a grandparent or a parent or a mentor of any kind to a young person, and you think they might need some direction, what we're finding is a lot of people are reading the book themselves and then giving it to that person and having them read it so they can have a really awesome discussion about what their future might look like. We also see a lot of business owners who want to build a really a great team of loyal entrepreneurial employees, if you will, who can build their own lives within their organization, and they're giving it to their employees so that they can kind of say, hey, let's talk about how to build a really cohesive team here.
And just even some of these trades, that's not easy. Like, car mechanic even. I don't know what to do under the hood there. That's skilled labor to me. And electrical work, one, dangerous, but it takes a lot of knowledge. And it's not a negative thing like, they're college, you think you got to be smart, but you got to be smart in these trade jobs too.
Well, not only that, but I mean, if you think about the way that kids are raised these days, a lot of them enter into their 15, 16, 17 years of age, and they've never really used tools. They've used cell phones and iPads and those kinds of things, so they never really get that experience to figure out, well, wow, that might be something that I'd like to do for a living. And what happens there is you have this huge supply and demand problem that comes across because we all know where supply is low and demand is high, especially for these skilled tradesmen. That's where the money tends to go. So this is one of the best kept secrets that we have nowadays is how many lucrative opportunities there are in blue-collar fields.
I think that's one of the great underreported stories is the employee deficit in some of the skilled trades where they can't find enough people to fill those trades.
Well, look at it. There's a study that was out that said that the average age of an electrician is 52 to 55 years old, and they're retiring at a rate of 5 for every 1 that's coming in to backfill that position. So it doesn't take very long before that supply and demand curve gets really severe, and then now you have an issue where you're really looking for great, skilled, quality people.
We in the radio business and television, broadcast engineers are a very dwindling breed. Sorry, Alan, if you're listening, he's getting up there in age. Eventually, he's going to retire.
He can't live
when
forever.
he retires, I don't know what we're going to do because a lot of the engineers are older, and it's hard to find. I'm hearing this across the country. It's hard to find good broadcast engineers. Any broadcast engineers out there? No one's interested in that.
Well, it's one of those things where, unfortunately, we have this almost built-in default mechanism. The parents, the high schools, and the colleges all say, well, you got to get, a high school degree, or and then you have to get good grades, and then you have to try and get a scholarship, and then you have to go to college if you're going to make something of yourself. And if you think about it, guys, there's 165 million people working in the United States at any one time, and about 65 million of those do something with their hands. So there's a lot of folks out there that are in some type of blue-collar industry, and it's a very important industry to keep filled with good quality people.
And you kind of share the struggles that college students and grads are seeing that from debt to finding a job. What are some of the statistics that you're seeing for college grads?
Well, they had a recent story out that a lot of the big accounting firms aren't hiring the MBAs that come out of school. Now, if you're an MBA in accounting or finance, you're giving $200,000 to a school to get that far. And now you're coming out with all that debt, And because of the current situation, they're just not hiring those people like they would. They used to hire 200-300 of them at a time, and they're not doing that. The other thing is, if you think about the opposite of supply and demand, there's something called oversupply. And if we have all of these kids coming out with these, with these bland business degrees that don't really have a specificity to them, what happens? You get a flood of people on the market, and there's not enough jobs for them to go after.
And a lot of these blue-collar jobs do require a lot of training.
Sure.
But the good news is a lot of those are apprenticeships where you actually get paid to be trained to learn how to do the job.
Well, let's look at the example that I just gave you. If you're paying a school $200,000 and spending 4 years to learn something, what if you did the opposite of that? What if you went and apprenticed for somebody and you earned $40,000 or $50,000 a year? In 4 years, that's a $400,000 net swing in your asset value versus somebody who went to school. And you kind of have a head start. Now, God forbid you go after maybe a 401k early in life and do something like that. You're going to be well on your way to a lucrative and financially rewarding career.
And you do talk about, in addition to the opportunities in the blue collar areas, you talk about budgeting. You talk about setting yourself up for your financial future. What are some of the things advice you would give to maybe we got people who are seniors in high school right now looking forward, heading out into that realm? What are some advice that you would give to them?
Yeah, I think one of the best things you can do is if somebody hires you in at a job and says, I'm going to pay you $40,000 a year, I want you to say back to them, thank you for paying me $37,000 a year. Because if you can take that first $3,000 and just forget about it, you can't miss what you never had. You can't spend what you never had. So if you take the first $3,000 and put it into a simple 401k program, most people don't know this, but that's $60 a week. If you do that from the time you're 21 to the time you're 31, you can actually stop saving money and have over $1 million in your 401k when you retire. So how good would it feel to be 21 years of age and say, hey, my retirement is handled?
Yeah. And that's if you stop. I mean, if you keep investing till you retire,
right?
Because you've already built that habit.
Absolutely.
You're gonna have
Again, you don't miss what you never had. So if you just keep going, that can only build for you, in a big way.
We're talking with Ken Rusk. The book is called Blue Collar Cash. Love your work, secure your future, and find happiness for life. Now, one of the things you mentioned is because schools have gotten rid of shop class and things like that. That was one of the things that provided people, and sometimes this happens when people go to college, is that they get exposed to things they'd never been exposed to before and find out, hey, wow, I really like this. This is really fun. So many people go into college like they're going to be this major, and then they discover something else, and they totally change direction. We've kind of lost that opportunity in the trades to give people an hands-on experience to say, wow, I never would have thought being an electrician would be great, but boy, I love this.
Well, if you think about it, it's not only a career that gives you that step back moment where you can say to yourself, wow, look at what I just did. I created that beautiful outdoor stone kitchen, or I created that house or that landscape or whatever I did. I built that bridge, whatever it might be. Those things stand the test of time. So, time-honored traditions like that are just never going to go away. And I think what happens is, again, we have this default mechanism that just sends everybody one way, and I'm kind of a contrarian thinker. So if everybody's going this way, maybe you should go that way because that's where the opportunity lies and again, the financial rewards.
So how can kids, maybe in that high school realm, they don't have that opportunity to shop class, how can they maybe expose themselves to some of these areas to see if maybe this is something they like and enjoy?
I don't know a single contractor who isn't hiring to have somebody assist them in doing what they're doing because everybody's just so busy. So it's a great time to just immerse yourself and maybe just saying, hey, you know what? Do you mind if I work for you as a carpenter assistant and see what that feels like? Do you mind if I hang out with you in that welding shop and make some money on the side, just assisting you and see what that might be like? You have to remember, if you think about the fact that, there was a book called The Outliers that said you could master almost anything in 8 to 10,000 hours. Now, they were talking about sports at that time, but if you think about that, it's never been more true in the trades, because if I shadow somebody for 4,000 hours, I'm going to know pretty much all there is to know about that particular skill. And that's a path for me to not only earn a lot of money, but perhaps even start my own company someday soon.
Which is what you did.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And now writing books.
Yeah.
And you're a published author. You're a Renaissance man.
Yeah, I never thought this book would go 10 feet, much less 10 miles, and I'm very blessed, and it's been opportunities to help people that is really great. And one of the things I did want to mention is I typically take the profits. I've been sponsoring Make-A-Wish for about 20 years now. A lot of people know that in this town, and this is something that I was trying to do to help people, and also I'm probably going to take all the profits that I make from it to support another child that's ailing in this town for Make-A-Wish program. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Ken, how can people get a hold of the book?
Well, you can go to bluecollarcash.com. You can also buy it at Barnes & Nobles and Amazon and Indie Books and Apple Books and anywhere books are sold, as they say.
And do you have any other resources on your website?
Yeah, if you go to Ken Rusk Official on Facebook, we try to put a lot of good content out there that will teach people, hey, this is maybe a different way of looking at your life. This is maybe a different way of thinking what your future might look like. And these are some positions and some opportunities that you might want to take advantage of that you haven't thought about before. So maybe consider going there and looking at that real quick.
All right.
Excellent. Hey, Ken, thanks so much for being in this morning. It's been
Oh,
great
thanks,
having
guys.
you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It is 8:16 right here on Yes FM. Going to be a decent day out there. Maybe a chance of a stray shower. Highs into the low 80s.
And we appreciate the bakers, me and Tommy.
yes, oh yeah. If you're a baker, you will never go bankrupt in this town as long as Jeff and I are buying stuff.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I don't know what's going on.
I messed you up.
I had it going, and now everything's all messed up. So kibitz for a minute while I figure out what's going on. Stop.
Just move plugged in
Yes.
till after. Just move things around, then it'll come back. Yeah,
There we go. All right, here we go.
Speaking of skilled trades. All I know is if you can weld aluminum, you will never be out of work in your life.
It's funny because someone told me, they said, through thick and thin, through good and bad, through good economies and bad economies, a finished carpenter never sits down.
Yeah.
So,
My dad was a carpenter, and my brother. We lived a good life.
Well, and I think what happened is, because everybody used to think, that used to be the path for lots of folks. Blue collar, dad worked in it, you follow. And then factory work, some of the factory work died out, in the 70s, and so everybody thought, all the trades died out in the 70s. And it was really kind of a specific area that died out.
I think what happens is, we used to gauge blue collar work by just, the factories.
Yeah.
And that's just a small portion of the whole thing.
Because my grandfather was a steel worker in Pittsburgh. And, he worked all his whole life in steel.
Yeah.
It was great for him. My dad worked one summer in the steels and said, well, that was enough to tell me I don't want to work in steel. So fortunately he went in another direction because, by the time he was moving up, all that collapsed. But, he stayed and he did industrial water treatment.
And it's coming back. I mean, you can't make
Everything overseas.
You can't make your medicines overseas, for gosh sake. I mean,
But we're learning, aren't we?
wow.
We're learning that
Quick.
it's not
I think that hit probably everybody as a huge shock. That
it's like
What
building medicine overseas.
war change.
I did. Oh no, you gotta do your thing. How would you like your signed, by the way?
Actually, we had a listener text in that he could really use the book, so
Cool.
give mine to him.
And what was his name?
His name is Ben.
Yes, FM. It's sponsored by the I-70 Northwest Ohio, Fremont, and Astoria.
All right, one for Tommy and one for Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
I
that.
do really appreciate you guys having me. You guys,
You bet.
and I love the format, what you do, and we need a lot more of this format in our life. So keep doing what you do.
Appreciate it.
It's so good. All right, you can stop.
Don't forget your mugs.
Oh yeah.